Hello everybody, CBM here with BBD, and we've got my deck now that we're going to take a look at. It's Blue Eye Control. It was a very popular deck in Return to Ravnica Block Constructed. In fact, one of the decks in the top 8 of Pro Tour Dragon's Maze was Blue Eye Control. And so that's where I initially went off of when I wanted to build this deck. But I really wanted to play with some of the new cards. In particular, Elspeth, Sun's Champion. I think the card is just fabulous. You get to make just 3 dudes. You get to, situational Wrath of God. Emblem isn't that flashy, but the 3 dudes is definitely good.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out about Elspeth is I think Elspeth Terrell would have seen a lot of play if her making 3 dudes ability was a plus ability. The fact that it was
or even a 0.
Or even a 0. The fact that it was a minus is really what kept her from seeing play, and that ability is actually really good. People underestimate it, and here now that it's a plus ability, people are going to underestimate it a lot.
Yeah, like even at 1 more mana, it's just +1. She goes to 5, can't be helixed. I have 3 guys. Really, you have to do much more than 5 damage to kill her when she's in play.
Right, like Gore-Clan Rampager is kind of a problem, but beyond that card, there's not a whole lot in Standard that punishes her.
Definitely. Now the other new card that I was really excited to play is 100-handed one.
Yeah.
So we've got E Honda here. He has many hands. This card is bursting with flavor. The monstrous ability allowing it to block an additional 99 creatures is very awesome. I honestly don't think it's going to be very, very relevant. Like it could just as easily have been unlimited creatures as it could be like 20 or 25.
Yeah.
Like the only place where it would matter would be like against Splinter Twin in Modern. But even then online, if I can block 100 creatures and you have to go through your iteration 120 times now instead of just 20 or 30, that still seems pretty relevant actually.
I mean, it's a pretty heavy-handed way to make your opponent run out their time, but it does work. So.
But it has so much going for it. Like it only costs 4 mana. And it's a 3/5, so it doesn't die to Helix, it doesn't die to Mortars, and it actually doesn't die to the -3 on Elspeth if you have to wrath away some larger creatures.
Yeah, it's definitely an upgrade on some of the previous powerhouses at that power toughness, like Thraben Purebloods, So yeah,
definitely.
Siege Mastodon, just.
Now he also has Vigilance, so he's able to help protect Elspeth or Jace, and continue to put pressure on your opponent if you need to. And then the Monstrous is only 6 mana. And it gives it +3/+3 with the counters, and then it'll just let you block everything.
It also gives it reach too.
It also gives it reach, and you can do that at instant speed. So, I mean, I feel like this card is going to be very, very good.
Right. You can hold open for you can pass with 6 mana. Your opponent attacks you with a creature, you can block. If they Gore Clan it, you can go Monstrous and survive the attack, and if they don't, then you can Revelation it end the turn. Like there's a lot of options with having an instant speed ability like that.
Definitely. And then last but not least, we have Heliod, the white god. So he's a 4 mana just like the red god, and he's a 5/6 as opposed to a 6/5. But he gives all of my other creatures Vigilance, still has the devotion requirement of 5 to actually become a creature, which we can turn on with 100-handed one, Precinct Captain, or Elspeth. Also Detention Sphere counts towards it too. But even if I'm not able to make it a creature, I can still pay 4 mana. It just pumps out 2 1s. Like the creatures not being a 1/1 is really relevant.
Yeah, being a 2/1 is pretty strong. Especially they also have Vigilance too, which is pretty clutch. So.
Yeah, because he gives all your creatures Vigilance.
Like worst case scenario, he's basically a mobilization, which has always been a pretty solid constructed playable card. So worst case he's always that, but once he gets going, he's just absurd.
Definitely. Now we have the old standbys from the block constructed versions with Jace, Powerful Planeswalker, Sphinx's Revelation, arguably the best card available in Standard once the rotation actually happens, and Supreme Verdict with Detention Sphere. Now I am playing 1 Renounce the Guilds in the main deck, along with my Detention Spheres. Can be a little awkward, but since I know that I have them both, I can play accordingly based off of what I have. But I just wanted to have, some diverse answers to different cards. With Wear and Tear being like an actual card right now, I would much rather just have access to both of them than just one and one.
It's also good to have at least access to one card that beats Obsidian.
Yes.
Because Obsidian will definitely see play, and you don't want to just be cold with that guy.
Definitely. Now, I also have Celestial Flare is one of the new additions to this from M14. I think this card is awesome. It allows us to You know, be it like I can attack with my Precinct Captain to try and make tokens, even if you have a larger creature, just so that I can use Celestial Flare as, you know, an aggressive removal spell. But it also helps just protect me and my Planeswalkers from, you know, hasted creatures and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, I think Celestial Flare is pretty awesome. Even though there's no more Geist of St. Traft, with all the creatures in the set being enchantment stuff, I still think we're going to see a lot of ethereal armor type stuff. So a Celestial Flare could still be a very awesome answer to like a Glade Cover Scout or what have you, just getting in there. So
definitely. And then we just have some counter spells, Syncopate and an Essence Scatter. You know, just wanted to have an actual hard counter spell for a, you know, a problematic creature. But Syncopate is still good against all these very powerful Planeswalkers. And Essence Scatter does actually counter the gods because they are creatures while they are on the stack, regardless of what your devotion is. So Essence Scatter is a good way to be able to counter those cards.
yeah, it's a very good counter for those. Agreed.
As far as the lands go, I'm playing 26 lands. We do have our Guild Gates and our Hallowed Fountains. I felt like I could afford to play one colorless producing land. I wanted to try out the Nyx land that lets you add mana for your devotion, but I figured Mutavault is, you know, just going to be pretty awesome as a way to protect my Planeswalkers or even attack. And with Heliod, it gives it Vigilance, so I get to use it for mana on your turn.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
So that's definitely pretty neat. But yeah, this is the main deck. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sideboard and see, you know, what type of options we have to switch some cards around.
Okay.
And here we are with the sideboard for the blue-white control deck. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the noticeably missing Aetherling from the main deck, which was, you know, arguably the most standout card from Pro Tour Dragon's Maze. Everybody learned about how fast of a clock he is and how tough it is to handle him. People even going so far as playing cards like Debtor's Pulpit to actually handle an Aetherling. And I am running Aetherling in the sideboard for the deck. Aetherling is powerful enough that I want to have access to it, but I really just want to try out Elspeth in that spot. I don't feel like you really want to play both of them at 6 mana as a finisher, and I think that Elspeth gives us more flexibility against the decks that Aetherling is just going to be terrible against.
Right. Aetherling's really only a control finisher for control matchups. It's okay a lot of times in some of the more mid-rangey matchups, but really, like, you pretty much just want this card to close out the game against other Revelation decks. And Elspeth seems like you said, much more versatile against a lot of the aggressive decks. The turn you play Aetherling is the turn they kill you. But Elspeth gives you like 3 guys to block with, or can Wrath half their team or whatever to protect you, unlike Aetherling.
Definitely. And even against the control decks game 1, you know, Elspeth can close out games fairly fast as well. Just, you know, 3, 6, 9 dudes just attack you.
Yep.
If she doesn't die, you know, after the 4th activation, you just make an emblem and they're just even bigger. So
they're deader than they already were. So
definitely. I want to have access to a 3rd Detention Sphere in the sideboard, so we have it here for problematic permanents. It gives us an answer, you know, for like the gods if they happen to get into play, or even against a lot of the, you know, the aggressive / mid-range decks are just going to be very streamlined, playing lots of 4-ofs. Sometimes you can just get them if they have, like, you know, multiple Reckoners or multiple Ash Zealots.
It's also a very good Detention Sphere is one of the best ways to handle the nut draw of like triple Burning Tree Emissary too. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I wish that card was gone. I also wanted to have access to another Heliod for the control matchups. Being indestructible, there isn't a whole lot of ways for them to get rid of it outside of a Detention Sphere. Then I can just keep churning out 2/1s to end up putting the game away. The Force Supreme Verdict's pretty self-explanatory. We have 2 more 100-handed ones, so we have 200 hands in the main deck, 200 hands in the sideboard, for 400 in total. I definitely just want to have access to 4 of these guys against any of the aggressive decks.
Yeah, it seems like a very handy blocker to have. So
definitely, because a lot of the times they'll pressure you early, you'll wipe the board with Supreme Verdict, and then they're just sandbagging some creatures. I mean, you just play this guy and then Monstrous him, and then they have no way to kill it and no way to kill you because you can block 100 creatures. Right.
they gotta try to get that 101st guy into play, which is tough. But
it's tough. Might be doable. Doubt it.
Yeah.
But it's tough.
You know, he blocks 100 creatures, but Pestermite, there's only 99 of them. I don't know.
Now we do have Keen Apparition. It's just a way to handle enchantments like Detention Sphere or Chain to the Rocks. Also, cards like the weapons, like the hammer or the bow, they're artifact enchantments. So this actually kills them as well. So I feel like without having red to play wear and tear, you have to have something for those cards.
Yeah, I think Keening Apparition was a big part of Block Constructed pre Gate Crash, pre Dragon's Maze, for basically handling detention spheres. But yeah, the card was very good, and especially like this deck's not playing Angel Serenity, but if you ever do play Angel Serenity, having like access to Apparition and Angel Serenity is like a good loop to have against a lot of the problematic enchantments.
Definitely, that was one other thing that I thought about, potentially wanting to play was Angel Serenity in this deck. But even still, at that point, I feel like Elspeth is just as good, if not better. Like,
yes,
it even kills an Angel Serenity if they cast it. I can just -3 it to get rid of your Angel. So it comes down a turn earlier. We have 3 Dispels for other Revelation decks. Unfortunately, Rakdos Return is not an instant. I don't know if that's fortunately or unfortunately, but this doesn't counter it. So it's primarily for other Revelation decks. And then Renounce the Guilds to handle cards like Boros Reckoner or Assemble the Legion, which is actually a very good card against these types of control decks.
Yeah, and also good against Obsidat too, which is also a huge problem for these decks.
Absolutely. So I'm definitely excited to see how this deck plays out. I'm not too sure how well it's going to do, but Sphinx's Revelation is a good card, and anything can happen.
Yep.
So let's check it out.